So let's let the stories begin.
Well, I'm sure y'all all know about Joe Call, that big old man from Essex County that went around all the world to wrestle everybody, and he didn't ever lose. Well, today we ain't gonna really talk about Joe. We're gonna talk about his sister Bess. Oh, she was the prettiest little thing. Well, I really shouldn't say little. The girl was as big as a barn, but she was as pretty as she could be. She had this long black hair and pretty blue eyes, and she was real sweet-tempered. That is until she saw an injustice being done. She couldn't tolerate it. If she saw somebody kicking a puppy, Lord help, she's gonna get you. If she saw somebody picking on a little kid, you're gonna get a whooping, and you know this. Well, after a few years of wrestling all around the world, Joe kind of got tired and he wanted to go on home. So him and Bess pulled their money together and they bought a farm over in Essex County. And they worked it and they had some ox and horses and raised some hay, all the fun stuff that farmers do. Well, every now and again, the person would come up to Joe and want to wrestle and want to challenge him. Every now, but Joe would say, "No, let's not do that today. Let's go on about our business." But sometimes he'd just have to wrestle. Well, this Englishman came all the way across the state, and he decided he was going to wrestle Joe. He came riding out to the country and said, "Excuse me, sir. Can you please direct me to the coal plantation?" About that time, Joe looked at him. He picked up his plow with one hand and pointed over to the house. And he said, "Oh, I take it you're Joe Call." And he was like, "I reckon that I am." "Sir, I came here to wrestle you today, but it doesn't feel like it's a good day for wrestling." "It is awful hot, ain't it?" "Thank you, sir. Have a good day." And that Englishman took out of there like a light. Well, Bess was standing there and said, "What was all that about?" "Well, you know, just the usual, Bess." Bess picked up her plow too and said, "Joe, mine's getting a little dull too. Let's fix that when we get back to the house." Well, that Englishman, he goes back to town. He decides he's going to hire him some trainers to help him build up those muscles so he can go out there and fight Joe. So they worked out every day, lifting weights. And he got to where he could lift up a plow with one hand for 5 minutes. He's like, "Oh, buddy, I got it now." So he rode back out to that plantation, was going to challenge Joe. He got back out there, and this was when Joe and Bess were working the fields with the ox. They were tired. It's been a long day. He got there around about supper time, so they were about through. Got there, and he said, "Sir, I've come to wrestle you today." And he was like, "Buddy, are you sure today? It's been an awful long day. And something's wrong with this ox." Well, he picked up that ox to see what was wrong, lifted it clear above his head, and he said, "Bess, see if there's a rock underneath that horseshoe." And he said, "Joe, sure enough, there's a rock. Let me get it." And so she plopped it out, and he set it back down. That Englishman's eyes got as big as dinner plates. He said, "I'll be seeing you, sir." And he scooted on back to town. Bess's ox was acting pretty rough too, so she picked hers up with her left hand and said, "Oh, Joe, check mine out. Yeah, yours needs another shoe too." So they went back to the house and fixed it. Well, you know that Englishman, he's about as determined as he can be. And he saw 2 trainers, hard as he can be, and he was able to lift up that ox for 10 minutes. He's like, "Oh, got it now, I'm ready." So he goes back out there. But he couldn't find Joe anywhere. So he went up to the house and he saw Bess inside, and she was bending a horseshoe back and forth, just looking kind of quiet. And he knocked on his door and said, "Excuse me, Miss Call, I was looking for your brother." "Well, Joe's not in right now, but if you want to sit a spell, you can." I said, "Okay. Well, I'd come to wrestle him again. I thought we'd give it a try today. I feel like I'm ready." Bess said, "Well, sir, I usually am the one to wrestle the people that comes to try Joe, and if you beat me, then I'll say, yeah, you can wrestle my brother and it'll be pretty good." "Wrestle a woman? You have lost your mind, Miss Call. I would not do that." There's one thing I forgot to mention about old Bess. She truly believed that women could do anything a man could do, sometimes even a little better. And we already talked about how short Miss Bess Call's temper was. Well, that lit her fire, and she said, wrestle you? You come in my house, want to challenge my brother, but you're not man enough to face me? And he went, and as he bent over to laugh again, she picked him up by the seat of his pants and the collar of his shirt and chucked him out the door. She followed him out, stomping her way out there. Because you know, when we women get mad, those feet get to stomping. Well, she gets out there, he's dusting off his pants. He's, okay, ma'am, I believe we can wrestle. Well, they go at it, back and forth. He has the upper hand, and she has the upper hand. Finally, Bess just gets so tired of it. She flings him to the ground, lifts him up, throws him over to the fence into a pile of mud. He gets up. You can tell his pride's a little wounded. Miss Call, if you'd be so kind to hand me my horse, I'll be on my way. So she lifts up his horse and passes it over the fence. And he rode back, and we've never heard from him again. And that's a story Bess told. We're going to hear a macabre tale from Ireland, told by our beautiful June Powell.
This story is called Two Sisters. Long ago and far away across the ocean, in Ireland, two sisters lived off the land near a mill stream. Now the younger sister, she loved the simple life that they lived. But the older sister, she just loved things. Now along came a wealthy young landlord named William. He proceeded to court the one sister with his right hand and the other sister with his left hand. For the older sister, he bought long silk gowns and ruby jewelry, necklaces and bracelets. Well, she thought him quite a catch. The younger sister, she was happy with any little daisy he picked in the field. And this made him love her above everything. So he bought her a ring. Well, the older sister found out about their engagement, and she flew into a rage. But she kept her feelings locked down tight. She said, "Little sister, come on a walk with me by the mill stream." So they did, and off they went. And as they walked, the older sister's thoughts swirled with violence. And the little sister was worried about a storm that was brewing, just like it was trying to match the older sister's mood with wind and rain. Little sister said, "Let's turn back." And the older sister snapped, and she grabbed the little sister around her waist and she threw her into the river to drown. Well, as the waters rose from the storm, the little sister had to fight for surface, and she raised her voice above the storm and she said, "Dear sister, give me your hand, and you can have half of everything I have or shall have." And the older sister looked down from the bank and she said, "I'll not give you my hand, but I'll have Willie and all his land." And the little sister proceeded to float away, crying, "Oh, the wind and the rain." Well, sometimes she sank and sometimes she swam till she floated on down to the miller's stand. The miller stood at the water's edge watching the storm. He looked out and saw something. He said, "It's either a beautiful mermaid or a golden swan." And he ran up to his mill house. He didn't want it to be destroyed, whatever he saw. And he pulled a giant switch, and the big, cruel mill wheels came grinding to a stop. And he ran back out to the water in the storm, and there she was, with her hair spilled out over the water like fool's gold, drowned. Well, the miller's heart broke right there. And he went into his mill house, and he closed the door, and he let out the saddest sound anyone had ever heard. He said, "Oh, the dreadful wind." He was so shaken by what he'd seen, he didn't come out for many days. When he finally did, he had to come out because he had been hired to play the fiddle at a nearby landlord's wedding. He opened the door, he squinted lifted his eyes at the sun and he walked out to the water's edge where he had been before. But the wind and the rain had left nothing of the woman except for her white bones and her gold hair. Well, just like he was driven by something inside of him, he got out his tools and he set to work for hours. He crafted a fiddle from her breastbone. He created tuning pegs from her little knuckle bones. Finally, he strung the macabre instrument with her long gold hair, and he put it in a case. And he set the road. Hit the road. When he arrived, all the guests had gathered in the great hall. And there, in front, stood William in his finest attire. The miller stood poised, ready to play the processional that he had rehearsed. And then a great door opened, and there was the older sister, wearing rubies and a long white gown. Williams tried to pull the bow across the strings, and they wouldn't make a sound. The fiddle wouldn't play. So in shame and frustration, he threw the fiddle down on the cold floor, and everyone was silent as the fiddle started to sing all by itself. Yonder is my true love, William dear. Oh, the wind and the rain. There stands my sister who murdered me. Oh, the dreadful wind and rain. And that was the end. That. Now we have Miss Rebecca Ellis sharing a Yiddish folktale from the Fabrics of Fairy Tale by Tanya Bach.
There once was a man named Chaim Yankel. He was so poor that when the wind blew, it whistled through the walls of his house, chilling him to the bone. He was so poor that when the heavens poured rain down upon this earth, it dripped and dropped through the roof of his house and created puddles on the floor. He was so poor that there was scarcely a scrap or a speck of food to feed his 6 children and his wife. Well, one day, Chaim Yankel thought to himself, "Oy vey, this is no way for a man to live. I'm going to pack up this lid and make my way in the world and beg for alms." And so, wishing his family farewell, he took his fiddle and he walked off into the world. He walked for days and days through forests, towns, and villages. Sometimes when he was in the village, he'd sit with his arms outstretched, and sometimes a passerby would toss him a coin to fit in his pocket. Sometimes when he would go to the marketplace in the village, he would play his fiddle, and a crowd would form about him quickly as he teased from those strings sad tunes of longing or bright happy jigs. Those tunes always brought a generous shower of praise. And when he was in the countryside, he did odd jobs. Fixing, digging, cleaning, he would turn his hand to whatever was available. And pretty soon, his pockets were jingling with coins. Well, with his new wealth came worry. Pretty soon, the coins were too heavy for him to carry with him. Anxious for their safety, he took them out and he exchanged them for paper money. But then he worried again, for he didn't know where to safely store this money. He thought, and finally he had money. A needle, some thread, piece of cloth. And he stitched that patch of cloth onto his jacket, leaving one end open. And he slipped several bills in through the open end, and then he sealed the patch with a couple more stitches. And he took another patch, and he did it again. Well, Chaim Winkel was quite pleased with himself. He was sure no one would ever guess the secret concealed in his old coat. As the days and weeks passed, his coat became covered in patchwork squares. Woolen, linen, moleskin, red, yellow, and blue, striped, spotted, and floral, and each patch contained a healthy wad of cash. He put the patches on his sleeves, on his collar, on his pockets, even on the inside lining. And soon, Chaim Winkel had a padded patchwork coat. Well, the years passed. Chaim Winkel didn't have a very good sense of the passing time, and his family started thinking he must be dead. His wife Sadie, she started taking in laundry and scrubbing floors so that she could put food on the table. And his children, as they came of age, they too tried to contribute some coins. Finally, 20 years had passed. Chaim Winkel was a wealthy man now, and it occurred to him, perhaps it was time to return home. And so he went out and he bought himself a beautiful new coat with a fur-trimmed collar, smart trousers, a crisp linen shirt, and strong leather boots. And taking his old patchwork coat under his arm, he set on his way. And when he got to the village, nobody recognized him. He walked down the streets to his house, and he knocked on the door, now peeling with paint, now paint peeling, and it was opened by a young woman. He recognized her as his own dear daughter, stretched tall by the passing years. But she did not recognize him in his new clothes. And so he introduced himself, and they embraced warmly. It didn't take long before the news spread. All of his children came out to greet him. And up and down the streets, his neighbors called, "Chaim Winkel is alive, and he's a millionaire." Well, his wife wasn't at home. She was hard at work scrubbing floors. And when she heard the news, she couldn't believe it. How could this be her husband after all these years? Well, by the time she got home, Chaim Winkel had already left. He had gone to the synagogue to offer his prayers. He had put his patchwork coat on a hook in the corner of the kitchen, and he had left his prayer shawl forgotten on the table. When Sadie came into the kitchen, the first thing she saw was that prayer shawl. She took it, she held it up, she examined the familiar fabric, now worn with the passing years. She studied the embroidery, and she saw the corner that she had mended herself many years ago. And she realized instantly that this was her own husband's prayer shawl. Astonished, she set to work making the noonday meal, her heart pounding. Well, a loud knock startled her. She was working. She went to the door, and there was a man begging for alms. Well, as you know, Chaim Winkel, his wife, had nothing to give. But when she thought of her own dear husband, she was reluctant to send him away empty-handed. She looked around the kitchen for something to give, and her eyes fell on the patchwork jacket. It was the oldest, filthiest thing she had ever seen. taking the coat, she pressed it to the beggar man, and she said, "I know it is old and not of much use, but please take this with my blessing." And thanking Satan, he wrapped the coat around himself and he walked away. A little while later, Chaim Yankel returned from the synagogue. And oh, what tears of joy were shed. They embraced, they talked, they ate. His entire family sat around the table as he told them what he had been doing these past 20 years. They could scarcely believe that it was him sitting there with them. After all the dishes had been cleared, he got up and he went to the kitchen to get the patchwork coat. But of course, it wasn't there. He looked in vain around the kitchen. "Sadie, have you seen my patchwork coat?" Sadie's heart dropped. "You mean that old, dirty patchwork coat? I gave it to the beggar man this afternoon." Upon hearing these words, Chaim Yankel fainted dead away. His entire family surrounded him. They splashed water on his face, they slapped his cheeks. They finally revived him. Everything I have, all the money that I collected over these past 20 years, all of it inside that coat. Well, when Sadie Yankel heard that, she fainted dead away too. After he helped her up, he took his new coat and his fiddle and he made his way into the market square. And he started playing. People started to surround him and listen, and they couldn't understand what was wrong with Chaim Yankel. He was playing the fiddle in the middle of the day. He was shook up. What's wrong with him? Well, he kept playing, and pretty soon the entire village was surrounding him. They were all watching the spectacle. There were shopkeepers, there were mothers with their children, and men coming home for their evening meal, and they all stopped to stare. And among them was the beggar man wearing the patchwork coat. Well, Chaim Yankel stopped playing, and he shouted, "All you people, you think I'm crazy? Well, watch this. You," pointed at the poor man, he said, "I will trade coats with you. You may have my beautiful new coat, and you can give me your patchwork coat." Well, everybody gasped, and they giggled. For who? Who would ever exchange that beautiful new coat with the fur trim collar for that rag? Well, the poor man wasted no time. He rushed his way to the front of the crowd. He peeled off his jacket and he handed it to Chaim Yankel. He exchanged coats with that man right there in front of everybody. It was hard to tell who was more pleased with the deal, Chaim Yankel or the beggar man. But the poor man was worried that Chaim Yankel might change his mind, so he quickly disappeared into the crowd. And Chaim Yankel picked up his fiddle, put it under his arm, and he made his way home. And after he got home and the crowd had died, he took off his jacket, he took a knife, and he started cutting through the seams, the patches. Patch after patch, he peeled from the coat. And his family sat there amazed as the pile of bills grew and grew. Well, after that day, Chaim Yankel's family lived like wealthy people, never wishing, never wanting, but always grateful for what they had. And that patchwork coat, if you're wondering what happened to it, was mended, and it hangs on a hook in the kitchen, for Chaim Yankel could never throw it away.
wishes. No one ever called Melinda Alice nice. No, those weren't the words that were used. They called her clever, even witty. They called her, well, never to her face, of course, Melinda Malice. Yes, Melinda Alice was clever, but cruel. Her mother, when she thought about it, hoped that Melinda would grow out of it. And to her father, it was her very good grades that mattered. It was Melinda Alice who, in 8th grade, had labeled the new girl contamination and declared that anything or anyone that she touched needed to be cleaned, disinfected. High school only gave Melinda Alice a wider range for her talents. But the most surprising thing about Melinda was her power. No one liked her, and yet no one avoided her. She was always included, always in the middle. In fact, if you had seen her walking down the street, surrounded by a group of students, pretty and witty, you would have thought to yourself, well, there goes a natural leader. Now, one morning, Melinda Alice left for school early. She had forgotten to study for a math test that day, and Melinda Alice knew that good grades equaled power. So she set off for school, planning on what she was going to study and looking for a quiet spot to do it in. Now, on a normal day, Melinda Alice did not notice nature. But on a day like this, when her mind was elsewhere, she certainly didn't. And so when she was walking along, she nearly stepped on a beautiful snail, making its way across the sidewalk. "Please don't," she heard a voice. "Ugh, gross, why not?" "Well, if you don't step on me, I'll give you 3 wishes. "Done," thought Melinda Alice, and her mind immediately started reeling with the possibilities. "For my first wish," she thought, and she only had to pause a second, "is that my next 1,000 wishes come true." Melinda Alice swore she thought the snail said as he made his way across the sidewalk. What a clever girl. Melinda Alice immediately took out a notebook and a pen and set about planning out her next 999 wishes. "For my second wish," she said, "I wish to always be beautifully dressed." And so she was. Now, it's true that the clothes that she was wearing now was not all that different from what she left the house in, but that just meant that she liked her own taste. For my third wish, I wish that I have pierced ears and beautiful little gold studs. Now, Melinda Alice's father had not let her have pierced ears, but that did not matter now. Nope. Melinda Alice felt her new earrings and looked at her beautiful new clothes, and she thought of all the things that she could have now. CDs, DVDs, TVs, computers, cars. The possibilities were endless. Now, by the time Melinda Alice got to school, she was almost an altruist. I could wish her a gold piece, she thought. But is the snail really that powerful? I could cure disease. I could cure handicapped people. I could make ugly people beautiful. But just as quick as the wave of altruism came, it passed. And as she looked around at all the students in school, she was overcome with how much power she had now. I could get back people for who have wronged me. I could take revenge. They have to do what I want now. I can. And just then the bell rang, and Melinda Alice raced into school, threw her books in the locker, and made it into her seat just in time for her first class. She'd just gotten back out that pen and paper and was studying about planning out a few more wishes when the student next to her leaned over. Melinda Alice, how are you going to do on that math test next quarter, or next period?" Oh, Melinda Alice was so upset. What am I going to do? That stupid snail and those wishes, they made me late, and I completely forgot to study. Oh, I'm going to blow it for sure. Oh, I wish I were dead. We are now going to take just a brief 15-minute intermission, excuse me,
We've got lots and lots of food, so please help yourself and enjoy. And when we return in about 15 minutes, we'll be back with Lisa Kellerman.